Please welcome the Director of Global Travel, Events, and Ground Transportation at Fidelity International, Carol Fergus, and the Global Director of Travel at Microsoft, Eric Bailey, in conversation with Skift Corporate Travel Editor, Matthew Parsons.
Hi there. Slight cut out there. Hi both, great to see you, and thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Great. So the purpose of our discussion, I think we've got about 30 minutes, which is pretty generous, is to find out what's on your mind exactly, and in particular, what's going to matter to you most after the pandemic. But before we kind of dive into this, I was wondering if you could kind of share a little bit about yourselves, your roles, in terms of the kind of, your remits, the geographies you look after, and the travellers, so we know a bit more about you. Carol, can I sort of ask you to start?
Hi, yes. So I'm Carol Fergus, the Global Events, Ground Transportation and Travel Manager. The main areas of responsibility, the regions I look after is Asia Pac, EMEA, and India, and a little bit of the US. I look after everything that's travel related in terms of hotels, accommodation, ground transportation. I've just taken on the events, which is a new world for me, so really excited about that. I say to people, my job is to get my travellers, which are part of the investment banking and pensions community, from A to B, risk-free and safe and seamlessly.
Okay. Eric, I would do a little background about yourself. It'd be great.
Yeah, so I lead the Microsoft Travel Program as well as our card program and meeting sourcing. And so we're in 121 countries. We just implemented the last country, so we're done with the implementations. Volumes are down 98%. I expect some of that will come back, but not all of it. And responsible for, and it's shifting. You almost think about taking travel out of what I do, because really it's about creating relationships and helping people connect, which I think travel is a big part of that. But I think as we look at it in the future, that it will not be, you cannot look at it on its own anymore.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks. Carol, if I can start with you. So Fidelity is an investment company. You talk about funds and pensions, and I'm assuming face-to-face meetings are really important. Not to say they're not important at somewhere like Microsoft, but you're in a different space. So I'm just wondering, after the pandemic, are you kind of predicting things will go back to normal in terms of the numbers? Just wondering where you're at now in your thinking.
Well, I think at the moment, our travel travel volumes have gone down by 98%, and we are seeing a little bit of travel in mainland China and Australia. But I do think that people will want to go back to travel, but it will be a slow burn. It's going to take time. So in the past, where it was booking a ticket and getting from A to B, people now have been a lot more considered and
yeah.
There's lots of considerations and variables, but yes, of course, especially for our revenue earning and sales and fund managers, etc., they will want to start doing that face to face. But for me, I think it will probably start with the short haul, so more domestic travel, tail end of the year, going into next year. In terms of this international travel, I can't see that happening for a while. But yes, the face-to-face meetings will be important, but it will be a slow burn for us.
Yeah. Okay. And same question for you, Eric. Can you give us a little snapshot of where you are now, and then kind of immediate, kind of the short-term future?
Well, the painful part is we realize that almost no travel is essential for the short and medium term. So with that, I think we'll be relooking at everything as we come back. I think there still will be travel. I think it'll all be different. I think that your goals of what you do, that just waiting for things to randomly happen, or you hope you get the right connection with the right person, it's going to be much more planned out than that. To say, you want to go for relationship building, I think people are going to consciously build relationships. I think they're going to do different things at their destinations. I think it's not going to be about sitting in a conference room, because we don't need to just sit in a conference room with people. We've learned that. Now, there are other things we need to do, so we need to figure out, how do we use travel to help us work better together when we're not together?
Yeah. Okay. So this session's about, what matters to you most. I mean, globally, there's lots of news now about the vaccines and the digital health passports. And, even today, there's news about a kind of EU-wide green passport. And we've got Paul Mayer, who's the CEO of Common Pass, speaking after us, in case you've got a message for him. But in terms of, the next steps, I'm just wondering, as Eric is a travel buyer, looking after thousands of employees, are these passports going to be the answer for you in the short term?
I mean, I think there'll be a requirement in a lot of cases, not just an answer of something that we want to do, but I think there'll be something that needs to be done. Now, because I think countries will require it, airlines will require it. Your destination, the office that you're going to may require some sort of certification too. So I think in terms of all of those, it'll be good. It's a bit of a slippery slope that we go down, sharing that much private information about people's, whether it's choices or not, or requirements and health status and things like that. But I think that it's a new part of our reality. And I also think that we will see, as the previous speakers were saying, we'll see another H1N1, we'll see another SARS, we'll see another something else, and we're going to react in a very different way to that immediately. We won't be closing things down on March, 7th or 8th like we did last year. It'll be January 15th, just in case. And hopefully that'll mean we can stop some of these things, but I think we'll see it a lot more. So that information of what you have, what your vaccinations are, what your health is, I think is going to be more important. And I don't think there's much we can do to avoid it.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine a case where Microsoft would say, you can't travel unless you have a vaccine and you use this passport? Do you think this could be, we're coming up to this kind of situation, or is it too soon to tell?
I can't tell. It feels a bit perhaps intrusive from a company's perspective. I think it's more that if you don't meet the requirements, you could choose not to travel. Yeah. Would be more what it would be like, as opposed, I don't see any scenario or we would be forcing somebody to say, you have to do this and you have to go here.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Carol? Are you kind of looking forward to seeing, one passport take over so you can actually recommend it to your employees?
I think we're going to kind of follow the same pattern that we have up until now, in that treat each booking like a project, and it's about what's happening in terms of the location, where they're going to, and what they're being told to do. And then people, as Eric said, will be given choices. So it's really about, booking that trip, understanding the requirements of that trip, and then making a considered decision as to whether or not you're prepared to do the things that's required of you. Do you have the vaccine? Have you been tested? Are you prepared to go through that? And if you're not, I don't think our organisation will be forcing people to do that. But I think mentally, and that's why I say it's very considered in terms of what travellers will do going forward for themselves. They will make that decision because they'll think, well, this is my role and this is what's required of me, so I probably will have to do A, B, C, D, or consider doing a completely different role. However, they will be able to make those choices themselves.
Okay, so kind of a case-by-case basis. And you're talking to your staff a lot, I imagine, right now. Are they nervous about getting back out there again? Are they kind of just staying way clear of it, or what's their kind of mood?
I think people are. It's a mixed bag, really. You've got some people that are just fed up of the situation, full stop. And
I don't know if that's me going.
Just to be able to do something other than be. Sorry, we got locked. Yeah, be locked in their homes. But I think that, as I said before, that there'll be a lot more thought about the travel. But I do think people will be willing to travel as long as it's a seamless and easy process. If there's lots of, you've got to fill this form in, you've got to have all these different apps, all that stuff, people will start thinking, for the last year, we've used the technology, it works, it's made no difference to, the revenues and what's happening in our organization. Our clients that we normally meet with face-to-face are happy to have these virtual meetings, and that's what I'm going to do. I think the message for me really is to say to the suppliers in the industry, instead of asking the buyers, what can you do to encourage your travellers to come back, I'm going to turn it on its head and say, what can you do to make it a seamless journey and better journey for my travellers.
Yeah. Okay. And Eric, quick question for you. You know, what's the mood of your? I know it's obviously a vast workforce that you deal with, but could you sum up a kind of mood at the moment?
You know, we're seeing that more and more. We survey every month, and I think we're up to over 70% of people say they would be comfortable traveling now, even though virtually none of them are. Yeah. So we know that that's starting to build up. We know that I have no doubt the desire to travel from employees will come back. Whether or not the budget and the need to travel will come back are maybe different. And whether or not whether it's the customers or suppliers are going to want to see you, whether or not people are even willing to go into the office, right? If somebody's going to come visit me now, that means I also have to go into the office, right? Maybe it would just be easier just to do a Teams call or something like that. So we're seeing the mood. I think in general that everybody's antsy, right? Everybody wants to go anywhere at this point. So I get that, but I think that we're seeing. That's going to build together with that business need, and we'll see those coming together.
Yeah. Okay. And that leads me nicely onto this kind of remote work trend, which has obviously been a key point of this summit so far today. We've heard companies like Spotify, Salesforce, Twitter, BP, obviously Microsoft, these new work from home or work from anywhere policies. Are you being drawn into this? You mentioned budgets before. Are you being drawn into remote work?
I mean, I think that it is, the lines are blurring, right? So one of the things we're actually talking about now is, what about people that move somewhere else and want to go back to headquarters, but maybe they'd pay for it themselves? Should we be booking that, right? So we're seeing as the workforce distributes and moves more remotely, what does that mean for those in-person connections? And the other thing I'd like to add in there is that it's about the in-person connections, once again, not about sitting in the conference room. Mm-hmm. So it may be that when people go, it's about going on a boat ride together. It's about going to a museum. It's about doing something different to get to know these people. But I think that there will still be that connection. There's going to be that need to go to your headquarters of the office, to be seen, but more to be met and more to talk to people, as opposed to be sitting in a meeting.
Yeah, yeah. And Carol, what's your take on this? Are you finding your role is changing slightly?
I think for our company, I mean, the company is very much focused on dynamic working and what that will look like for the future. And only today, our CEO did a presentation on, where the company's thinking is and the strategy around flexible working and what people can do. And they're very much wanting people to embrace the way they work in the future and have the choices of either working from home, working in the office, and having that hybrid solution, but really working to your own, and being managed based on your deliverables, as opposed to you did 8 hours today and 10 hours yesterday. And I think as that happens and people get that flexibility, it will then impact in terms of how they travel and where they work in the future. But there will be limitations around managing taxation and being able to track and trace people, etc., etc. So that's where we're going to be engaged in terms of how do we monitor that and how do we keep on top of the fact that someone might be in a country for too long, or they tax that's required for that. So that's where we're being engaged in terms of how we can support our travellers.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're actually going to be able to run a poll on this kind of theme. Asking what your roles may switch over to or add on. So I definitely can run a poll on that. Now, I wanted to just run a headline I saw today past you. Not a Skift headline, but the headline was "Zero Travel is the career opportunity travel managers have been waiting for." I think this was an Agencia comment piece. So, do you agree with that headline? Zero travel is brilliant for you now in your careers. Carol, I don't know what you think about that.
I don't know if zero travel is going to help me in the long run. But I do think that today, what it's been able to do is for me to really reflect and look at my program and make it far more robust and do lots of things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do as quickly had we had the levels of travel that we had in 2019. But I don't kind of agree with zero travel being the way forward for the future. I don't that for me. I mean, like Eric, you might see it differently, but I mean, at the moment, I think there is value in having travel and having a travel manager supporting with that.
Yeah.
But there is room for both technology and travel, so there needs to be both.
Yeah, Eric, your take on that? I mean, we had the poll then, and the main response was demonstrating the value of travel, and I guess that kind of ROI.
So, and I'll tell you, one of the 5 reimagining travel pillars that we're sort of working on in this next year here, one of them is smart travel and bringing back travel, but in a smart way, right? So with that, targeting, and once again, we don't know exactly where it'll be, but targeting a 30% reduction in T&E and a 30% reduction in CO2, right? Those are both great wins for the company. If we as travel managers can deliver that, I mean, that's hundreds of millions of dollars that can be reinvested in other things, in the community, in our employees and things like that. So I think I see that as a great opportunity for us. I do see that the zero, I think that we've seen zero. So now we know what 50% or 60% or 70% looks like.
Yeah, or 98%.
And I think that the conversation is going to change, and it'll not be, I just need to get in front of my customers. I'm going to do this, 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 and this to build relationships, to demonstrate value to my customers.
Yeah,
my team is gonna get together, and as opposed to us being, at the headquarters, we're gonna go to Croatia for a week, or Paris or something like that, and we're gonna figure out how to really work together. We're gonna understand each other as a team, and I think there's gonna be different things like that. And I think that our managing of technology and the integrating of technology, especially in meetings and events, with hybrid, some people in person, more people are going to be able to attend. It's going to be more sustainable. It's going to be closer, less time zones. I mean, there's a lot of huge wins we can get out of this that are going to help people and that are going to help our companies.
Yeah. Okay. So jump in there. We have an audience question coming in. So I'll just read it out for you now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being really worried and 10 being really confident, where do you sit on the future role of the corporate travel manager? So Carol, are you a 1 worried or 10 really confident?
I'm not worried. So I'm definitely not a 1. I'm not worried. I think there is a place for a travel manager. I think based on my culture and what I do today, I would say that I'm relatively confident. Based on the strategy today and where we're looking to go, I would say that I'm confident.
Yeah. Okay. Eric, 1 to 10, where do you sit?
I would say if you're purely looking at, hey, I can buy plane tickets for people, probably towards a 1. That can't be what we're doing as travel managers.
Yeah.
If you embrace the idea that we are helping people connect to build a stronger company, then I'm way more up on that 8, 9, 10. Very confident.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to switch the conversation to travel agencies. Again, we've heard from some pretty big groups earlier today. You're obviously, there's not much travel, but you're obviously talking to them. Carol, what are those conversations with your agency revolving around at the moment?
Well, at the moment, to me, my agency is like my gatekeeper. So we need them more than ever. And I think, if the partnerships weren't there before, they definitely are there today. But I think in the same way that you're building strong partnerships and they're helping you to manage your program and help you get you travel ready in terms of their knowledge, their expertise, the information that they can share with you, and also your travelers, keeping us informed and the travelers informed. Those relationships are also being grown and developed with other areas in the business. So HR, tax, security. So, they're the sort of conversations we're having, and we're making sure that there is that collaboration. We're all linked and working together in order to give the travelers, when they start traveling, and even now, the information to make those decisions. So that's the sort of conversations we're having.
Yeah, and before we had a conversation, you mentioned that you kind of consolidated your agency. So you had many agencies before, and then you kind of got it down to 1. Do you think that's going to be a trend in the future where a lot of other corporates will start thinking, actually, we don't, it's not good to have so many agencies with so much data out there. We need 1 supplier, 1 agency. Do you think that's going to did it work for you?
Well, we've actually got 3, and it's gone from 11. However, I just think, again, it's about your culture and what you're trying to do and your strategy. So in terms of keeping your travelers informed, you want best in class. You want those people.
I think we may have lost Carol just then.
Yeah, we did.
Are you with me, Eric, still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've got a terrible connection today, and so has Carol by the looks of it. I'll switch over to you then with that question. You mentioned, you kind of switched on the final destination or final country for your agency. Give me a rundown of kind of an average conversation with your travel agency contact.
I would say, how do we build more content? How do we look at more things to judge what a successful trip or a successful meeting is? Because and even now you'll talk to hotels and they say a successful meeting is it's hot food and it's delivery and a clean room and stuff like this. Those aren't the way that we're going to be measuring what success is. We now have, that ROI is going to be real. As you said, kind of that zero travel is the best thing for us. Now we can start to look at that ROI. So how do we build these trips, and how do we show the value of that? Which means we're going to give you a place to meet. How many times have you walked around a conference with a computer, somebody else, like, hey, where can we sit? Let's find a place. That should all be scheduled.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that there's a huge opportunity to build on that and to say, let's connect you with the right people that are going to that conference. Let's make sure if you're in New York, here's 5 other people you can meet with when you're in New York. Let's make your trip 3 times as productive with 50% more time there. I think that's the sort of thing where I talk to the agencies about that all the time, about enhancing that value.
Okay, and you talk about hotels quite a lot, and before we had Raphael from Selena. Welcome back, Carol. Made it back in. Carol, I was just talking to. I was about to ask a question actually.
I logged on on my phone.
Okay, I think hopefully it'll work. Just talking about hotels. Well, I was going to move on to hotels really quickly. We heard earlier on today Raphael from Selena talking about his hotels, and there's a really interesting metric he brought up, and that was gauging a hotel by the percentage or the number of friendships that are kind of made at that hotel. Eric, what's your take on that? Is that a metric you'd be interested in for the future when it comes to kind of adding hotels?
Yeah, and we've looked at ways for how you can connect, how you can better connect. And we've actually put together events where multiple people coming in to say our campus are all staying at the same hotel. So you can extend that experience, that the travel is not, or the meeting is not just, once again, in the conference room. The meeting starts when you get on the plane. The meeting starts when you take the ride from the airport to the hotel. The meeting is in the hotel. All of that stuff should be shared content, shared people. Bring all that together. And whether it's your LinkedIn contacts or your Facebook contacts or something like that, there's a lot more value that can be added, that we've all run into somebody in an airport by chance. We've all run into somebody at a conference by chance. How do we make those more planned?
Yeah. And then same question for you, Carol. So we had the Selena talking about friendships and hotels as a metric. Does that interest you? Would you look to incorporate those kinds of hotels?
I get the sharing and the connection, but for me, it's more about the learning and the intelligence you'll get from those connections in terms of what people are saying about the accommodation. Because at the end of the day, the messaging for me is that I'm actually, you're going to somewhere that has been tried, tested, vetted, safe, secure, risk-free, in a good location, etc., etc. So all those variables are still very important to me. But I guess having the connections, the relationships, etc., will give you additional data about that particular hotel, etc. But I wouldn't use that as the basis of making my decision about the hotel.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And then again, we've covered the kind of the short stay sector quite a lot recently. Are you seeing a move away from hotels to short stay, service apartments at the moment?
Is that for me or Eric?
Yes. Yeah. Go for it, Karen.
So we've actually have got an accommodations program that includes both service apartments and hotels. Our policy that we've put in place, Eric mentioned about, changes in policy and the fact that we have targets for sustainability and making better use of the trips in terms of the decision you make. Service departments is one of the areas that we've said that, if you're going to go, especially in terms of supporting our 50% target to reduce our carbon emissions in the next 2 years, then, don't just hop on planes willy-nilly. Go and stay longer and make more use of your time on those visits. And what that means for us is staying in a service department as opposed to a hotel. Yeah. So, we're very much driving that initiative. So there will be an increase in our use of service departments, because whereas in the past it tended to attract the back office staff, we're saying to everybody, stay longer, optimize on that trip, and stay in a service department where available.
And same to you, Eric. And obviously it's too soon to tell, but are you seeing a shift already? Are people bringing this up as a kind of an option for the future?
And I know our time now, so I'll just be quick. It's that if the hotels create a culture that's going to engage networking, that's going to be more value that they could never get by staying at an individual property somewhere. So yeah. I still see a lot of value with the hotels there, that they're going to be in that central location, creating that atmosphere that's going to help people be more productive.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I think we are pretty much running out of time. So yeah, really fascinating to hear your take. It seems to be that, culture is going to be really important, the DNA of your businesses. And, I think the suppliers will have to kind of step up to those needs. So yeah, it's been great to sort of delve into your mind over the last half an hour. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.